Hey everyone, and welcome back to Vertical Blocks, episode 6, where today we're joined by Chronic from PaintSwap and Don from BubbleMaps. So thank you guys for joining. We're excited to have you here today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Maybe a good place to start would be just a quick intro on both of yourselves, as people, and then an intro on the projects you're representing. So BubbleMaps and PaintSwap, respectively. Maybe you want to start, Chronic?
Yeah, sure. Hey, I'm Chronic. I work in business development for PaintSwap. I'm also an artist and NFT creator myself. I've been in crypto and NFTs for around about a year now, or 100 years as we call it in crypto time. And I've been with the PaintSwap team itself for a few months as an official member and a part of that community in depth, basically the entire time that I've operated on Fantom Opera. Yeah, that's me. PaintSwap is our NFT marketplace that we handle any collection. We're a decentralized NFT marketplace, allowing the submission of any collection by any creator. The only restrictions that we apply to that is we don't allow stolen content, of course, and then also malicious actors can be removed. Other than that, fully decentralized and no curation in the marketplace. We allow volume to dictate who is presented as the top NFT collections on Fantom Opera. Don, I'll pass it to you.
Thanks for that, Chronic. Go ahead, Don.
All right, everyone. My name is Don. I'm one of the co-founders at BubbleMaps, and we created it I'd say about a year ago now, maybe a year and a few months. And I joined crypto properly in December 2020, when my older brother, who's a blockchain developer, sent me $20 of Ethereum, and I just fell down this rabbit hole. And here I am today. And it took me 3 months before I found the right people, and we made a project. And I mean, it's just a testament to Web3. It's the land of dreams. You can become and do whatever you want to do as long as you have a good idea. Sometimes you don't even need a good idea, but I mean, as long as you have a good idea with a good heart and good potential, you can go and do it. But yeah, so I've been in Web3 crypto for about since December 2020. But please know I've tried my best to learn as much as I can along the way, and it's an honor to be in this space and be amongst such great people, the likes of Fantom and PaintSwap as well. So it's an honor to be here today, guys. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, the pleasure's all ours. And I gotta say, Don, every time I talk to you, your energy is infectious. I think if you'd been born like 60 years ago, you would have been the top infomercial host of all time. You really know how to get the vibe going. So nice. Yeah, I think what's really interesting about this conversation and bringing both of you in this room at the same time is both of your approaches towards sort of democratizing access to data when it comes to Web3 and helping onboard retail who may not necessarily be technically minded to the extent that some of the earlier OGs were. So I think that's definitely a topic to touch on today. But before we do that, Chronic, I think it would be interesting to hear a little bit about your personal background as an artist and how this sort of intertwines with your responsibilities at PaintSwap and how you see yourself being, an extension of PaintSwap on the business development side with this experience as an artist and a contributor yourself.
Yeah, it's an interesting dynamic. The reason that I discovered PaintSwap was because I wanted to release some works out into the wild. I had some stuff ready to go, and I was completely clueless on how to do that. Right, I had no idea how to do it. I had some team members with me at the time who were working on our major projects and blah blah blah. That's when I was with Fractal Studios, so I didn't want to detract from that in order for my personal work. So I got into talks with it was Paintoshi and Sandwich on the PaintSwap team, and they babied me into releasing my first collection, and from then forward, it was like the identity as NFT artist and the loyalty to affiliation with PaintSwap, they were intertwined. They were hand in hand to me. It was the same thing. As for my art itself, it has grown as my understanding of Web3 and NFTs have grown. So that's really interesting, because I've only been making visual art. I mean, I took like a 10-year break from making visual art. I stopped after I went to college, and I just resumed it when I entered into the world of NFTs. So like that whole journey has gone side by side with, my time in Web3. And to speak to being, a participant in the community, along with like a contributor to the community, it's a very strange dynamic being out there trying to, promote your work. You want people to look at your work, but also you have to compartmentalize quite a bit in order to have, I have to have official PaintSwap conversations with people, and so on and so forth. I can't, promote my own work on PaintSwap time and stuff like that. So that's interesting, but all in all, I think that it gives me a unique perspective that is solely mine amongst the PaintSwap team, who is, I've been a part of the primary and secondary markets for the entirety of the Fantom NFT life cycle. I was there at the beginning with, Zoocoin and all that jazz. Not as old as some of our oldest OGs, but I've seen how the trends have moved, and I'm in regular conversation with both creators and collectors. So it puts me in a good position to offer that everyman view on products we're developing, or a direction that we may be considering taking, and how that might impact our community in a very real way as the end user, not just as the producer of the content. So it's a huge advantage for me personally, and I'd like to think that it's been an advantage for the PaintSwap team to have me around as well.
That's incredible. That's incredible. You have like this 360 view of all things NFTs. I think if we were work together, Chronic, I've got the data with BubbleMaps. You've got the knowledge to know how the trends, all of that stuff. We could be an unstoppable force.
I know. Why are we doing this? Let's go make money somewhere, man. What are we doing here?
and this is how the idea is born.
Right.
But speaking of data and understanding and figuring out the trends, Don, tell us a little bit about BubbleMaps and where NFTs fit into the picture, or even where the idea just sort of started to click.
Yeah, absolutely. So, of course, as I mentioned earlier, started this project called BubbleMaps about a year and a half ago, sometime like that. And it can be used to scan NFT collections in the sense, you have the holders list and then the top 150 holders or owners as bubbles on screen. And you can very quickly and easily, of course, see if there's been a transfer of funds between those top owners. Now, this is absolutely crucial to understand, because like if you were to see this, you would know what's going on behind the scenes. Is there any wash trading taking place? Why are these amounts being sent across? But to just highlight that in a way which kind of goes beyond standard blockchain explorers is crucial. I think like this NFT space it's amazing that artists, I think, are getting funding, getting paid, getting rewarded for their hard work and their fine art and all of that. But there are a few bad actors, a few bad eggs out there. So to have BubbleMaps out there illuminating NFT collections, I think is super important. It's something it's something we've seen. We've seen these unsavory, really, really bad NFT collections with mass amounts of connections, which you otherwise maybe wouldn't have seen with the blockchain explorers. But yeah, there's all shapes and sizes out there. But I think to have this really does help kind of like educate and teach people about what to see, what to find. And like with the knowledge you'll gain over with PaintSwap about all the data with the volumes, with the trading amounts and all of that, and match it with kind of BubbleMaps, you're going to be set. I mean, if you're just entering the NFT world, these are, I don't want to sound egotistical, but I know these are good fundamental tools to have to kind of set you off and jump into the NFT world, really. I mean, all it takes is to just type in a contract in there, and within seconds you can see the inner workings of that collection.
So there's two things I wanna learn from you guys. Don, from you, I want to understand how you think accessibility to this data in a way that's human readable, right? To the extent that before you could find these things on, for example, blockchain explorers, but it required a certain level of technical acumen or ability. You know, how you think that's going to unlock the game for retail buyers, and then in terms of the NFT landscape, and here I'm thinking more gaming, art, JPEG type NFTs. And then Chronic, from you, I want to understand where you think NFTs as a whole are headed right now, right? Obviously, we've gone through lots of different hype and then fade phases, and I think we're starting to find a sort of healthy middle ground of what can NFTs mean as a technology and as an art form. So let's start with you, Chronic, and then we can circle back to Don on how data is going to unlock these opportunities that might arise for the rest of the retail audience.
Yeah, I think that we're in a very unique time for a lot of people who have, like myself, like Don, who entered into DeFi and NFT during a bull market, right? Entered everything sells, everything's great, everything's blowing up. It doesn't matter what the NFT does, right? You just tweet about it enough times, people are going to buy it. But of course, that's bull market, and every bull market will be that way forever, right? That's just how it is. When excitement is high, people will buy. But that's great. I'm going to write that down. When excitement is high, people will buy. But in the bear market, it's a very revelatory time for us. What technologies are continuing to be built? What technologies are being abandoned? What is scalable? What is not? So, like, for example, on a chain such as Fantom, right? Fantom Opera, you could look at AVAX for this as well if you wanted to look at other chains for it. But to stick with Fantom, low gas fees and massive scalability of the network make it operable in a bunch of different ways. So there's been a lot of talk about NFTs as GameFi assets, which for the layman listener, GameFi is exactly what it sounds like. It's taking technology, turning it into a game somehow. And that's something that's made possible by the low overhead cost and speed of something like Fantom Opera. So as far as GameFi is concerned, there's a really interesting work being done right now on these things called meta transactions, which basically a meta transaction, it allows you to you sign on your wallet to access a contract, and then from there there are no transactions following that for interaction with that contract. They're all done in meta transaction, which is essential to that will be the key to like console Web3 GameFi is single sign in, play your game, come out with whatever play to earn that you were supposed to get, right? So meta transactions and gamification are going to be a huge thing during the next bull run. Right now, all of the most devoted folks that I know in the ecosystem are heads down building the next wave of what will overcome the next bull wave, right? Now, another thing that makes that possible also brings in like a secondary aspect of NFT utility, and that's there's a standard, a contract standard that's called ERC 1155. Now, I won't go too granular into this because a lot of people don't care or whatever. But basically, an 1155 contract is unique in the fact that you can have multiple quantity of a single ID, which it's the only standard that allows that. And you can bulk transfer within the contract. It's the only standard that allows that. And those are very important things for not just GameFi, but also for simple utilization for your Web 2 companies to move into Web 3. I've often used the example of asset distribution as a utility of an 1155 NFT. So like something that you may never see on a PaintSwap would be if let's say BubbleMaps decides that this year, instead of allocating funds to departments all out of bank accounts or whatever, or wallets, what we're going to do instead is we're going to launch the fiscal year 2024 ERC 1155 contract, and it will have an assigned budgetary amount, and you'll be given X number of tokens of ID number 1 or ID number 2, dependent upon your department. And then you could utilize a tool such as BubbleMaps to see how those IDs move around through your company and out into the ecosystem, to see who your true largest trading partners are, to see, any of a number of things, and allow those tokens then to be traded for funds, crypto, whatever. And that's just one example of that asset distribution model. It can be applied in a million different ways, but in my opinion, it's the most real world viable application that's virtually zero cost to implement, that's out there right now. And I think that we're going to start seeing businesses looking at the potential of NFT outside of, JPEG. That is coming next bull run, because, or I keep saying bull run, and what I really mean is the next cycle. But that's because of all of the people who are still here in the ecosystem, still building across, every chain out there.
It's interesting that you said that. Like, I was thinking, like, what's the next step in, like, the real world kind of, like the real world implementation of NFTs? Like, when it comes to like shops or retail, in my head, I can kind of see them implementing it for like clothing or food, or like keeping inventory of stock, maybe like that whole system changing. Is that could that be possible, do you think, in the coming years?
Yeah, that's possible right now, using the exact same model that I was just giving to you. You get in, you have an 1155 contract, right? And you get in a set stock for 1 week. So in order to ensure that you're rotating your stock properly, you make certain that you sell that entire contract's worth of ID number 1 prior to implementing the next week's contract ID 1. And that allows you to ensure rotation of stock, and that's just a quick example of how you could do that. But because of the efficiency and scalability of a chain like Fantom, you can do things like that, where you just launch a contract and you maintain those contracts. You don't have to get them verified anywhere. You use them for your own internal purposes. And on top of that, we are not far away from a time when, a retail store, give us like 5 years, and your local mom and pop could probably reach out to a developer to get their own blockchain launched. It's just their server running a blockchain style type of inventory using Solidity code standards to maintain that inventory. It's super possible.
Wow, that's super exciting to hear about. And like to relate it, like, I guess, like, I'm glad, like, it excites me because I think BubbleMaps really has that's what excites me about the future of BubbleMaps, because I can feel it like evolving with NFTs, in the sense of like a retail perspective, and like maybe like there needs to be some auditing behind it. So like that's what excites me about ours. That's what keeps me going, knowing that our tool can sort of develop and increase as the ecosystem expands. Like in the current space, like with the standard blockchain explorers, they are really cool. They're like the receipts of the blockchain, they are the receipts of the blockchain, but they're just, I don't know, they're a bit archaic. Like the way people are doing it previously, and maybe currently as well, is, if they want to investigate NFTs or anything on the blockchain, they go onto these scans, and, it's just like you're clicking away and you're losing track. I mean, I don't know if you guys have ever investigated wallets, or like taken a 1 a.m. deep dive into a scan in someone's wallets and couldn't sleep or whatever. It's quite fun to do, but it's just, you can very easily and very quickly just lose yourself with all these different wallets, these clicks and these transfers, and you'll find yourself writing it down, making a Google sheet and all of that, and it's just really, really inconvenient. So I'd say, like, with within BubbleMaps, it does replace that to a certain degree, and just changing how you view data, I think, and just instead of having it as an archaic list, I think for it to appeal for blockchain, for it to appeal to a wider audience, it just needs to be it needs to be easier. So I think like to be able to spot that and sort of reverting that back to BubbleMaps, I think is going to be a huge help for people. So NFTs don't need to be this big, confusing, hard thing to get into, and you can very easily and quickly spot any forms of malicious activity and all of that good stuff. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's two things that are really exciting here. One is the increased possibilities with what we could call financial NFTs, or the financialization of NFTs. Like even just, I think it was last week, a couple of weeks ago, I was talking to Rob Montgomery, who's the CEO of a company called Revest Finance, and they're doing FNFTs, and they have a new product called Resonate, which is really interesting. There's tons of episodes that he's done with a variety of people talking about it, if you want to dig into it. But essentially, the long story short is that it allows people to deposit their liquidity and have it locked for an amount of time, with essentially a payback up front, so that they can then have this liquid NFT and then resell it on a secondary marketplace if they want to, while that liquidity remains locked in the DEX of its origin. And he was talking about how, for example, this can then be sold, for example, on PaintSwap as a secondary marketplace, and it starts to unveil all of these different possibilities for example, creating sticky liquidity for DEXs, and then having the possibility for that block token representing that liquidity to be sold on secondary marketplaces. Then going to the second topic you were talking about, Don, about the accessibility, it's almost like when I think about these scans and explorers, I think everyone's gone down that rabbit hole. And it kind of reminds me of those tasks. I don't know if you guys ever had it in school, where part of it was you'd go to the school library and they'd give you like an assignment, which was to find 5 books around the library, and you had to go through the catalog section, all this sort of stuff. Versus, some year, it was horrible. Versus some years later, just being able to Google it and you'd have that book, delivered to your doorstep within a few clicks. And I think that's where we're headed right now, where we still have a lot of the tools that should be available to the mainstream are still somewhat geared towards people with technical backgrounds or orientations. And so this is going to be really interesting. But to visualize it more fully, I know we've been talking about financial NFTs and the different possibilities, especially within these new implementations. Let's talk about JPEGs. So before, Don, maybe you can show us a little bit about how your platform visualizes this. Before we go into that, Chronic, I do want to hear your perspective as an artist on NFTs as JPEGs, NFTs as art, right? Like where are they headed, and what are some of the things that maybe we've learned or that we're moving towards that we were discarding and implementing?
Yeah, I think that it's we're in a bit of a confusing time right now for the art NFT. There have been a lot of changes, since entering into our recent bearish market that we're in right now. But I think that there are a couple of camps on art NFTs and what's next, what's going on, whatever. There's, the art is the utility camp, which I'm a member of. Most of the things that I produce, they're just artwork, they're artwork and they're tied to a token ID, and that's great. Your token ID is your proof of purchase and it's the proof of existence. Cool. That's what that's for. And then there's art with utility in a secondary camp. Now, that's what more people are looking for right now than anything else. And so, when you see things like there's BB Chickens that's out there, and it's not an FNFT, it's just a piece of art, right? But it's tied into a DAO style wallet that accumulates funds, bribes on Beethoven X, blah blah blah, all of this stuff, right? It is this JPEG, right? That you can open up PaintSwap, you can have a look at it, you can look at the stats on the collection, trading volume, whatever, great. But also behind the scenes, there is the secondary, implementation going on, where there are financial moves being made to bring value back to the collection. In that particular case, that's one you can sell it back at some point and reclaim your part of the treasury funds or whatever. But you know, when it comes to art as NFT, I don't think that it's going anywhere at all. I think it will continue to always be a major part of the NFT ecosystem because it's an easy entry point. You know, I mean, when we talk about accessibility, logging on to PaintSwap, right, and looking at the top collections of pictures that there are out there, what pictures do you like? Who's selling them? Who's buying them? Could this picture make me some money? Maybe it could, based upon this data, based upon this bubble map that I'm looking at. I'm looking at this picture right here, and I think someone will buy that picture from me at some point, right? Great. But at the same time, you know, you do have things out there like the financial NFT, which is making a huge push right now. Someone who has moved into, let's say, Magic Hats or Beardies or whatever, just a general art NFT that also has some sort of financial utility. Someone who has purchased one of those is much more likely to be cool with, let's say, in 2035, a bank's like, we'll give you a loan, but we're going to need you to lock $10,000 in this FNFT in order to achieve that loan. That's your down payment. We have that $10,000 now in this FNFT. When you pay it off, you get your FNFT back, right? But you can always publicly view those funds. We're not trading with them. We're not risking them. They're locked in this FNFT. The person who's made the buy-in on a marketplace such as PaintSwap, or even minted into an NFT with those very accessible art collections, right? That person is much more likely to accept that sort of a future where an NFT means security, not speculation.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to see how these two things will sort of, I guess, at some point fork, right? Where on one hand you'll have the security in the financial aspect and all the different ways it can be applied, and on the other you'll have a continuation of what I think will be pop culture as it's always been, right? Where there are groups and subcultures that form around certain ideas and topics, and that's essentially what NFT communities are to a certain degree, is these tribes. So maybe that's a good transition for Don to show us his baby. One of the things that's really cool about NFTs is its ability to form social bonds online, and especially with everybody being locked in over the last couple of years. I think that there was a lot of social bonds that were formed because of online communities relating to NFTs, and that was across all blockchains. But of course, I saw a lot of that happen on Fantom, and so that's one of the big positives. On the flip side, that also invited the possibility for a lot of bad actors to take advantage of this, and it seems that you can't go a day without opening up Twitter and seeing some sort of scandal around some sort of NFT collection. So, Don, let's talk to us a little bit about BubbleMaps and how it can help inform retail buyers as to what they're getting involved in and what's going on behind the scenes when they just look at a JPEG and say, I really like this and I kind of like the theme and the idea and the community behind it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, BubbleMaps comes in all shapes and sizes, really, but we're mainly focusing on the connections between two owners. Should I share my screen and jump into a couple?
Yes, please. Let's see them.
Let's do it.
Because I think the aesthetics of it are especially pleasing as well for anybody who just likes to click around on interactive screens. Let me open it up here.
Amazing. All right then. Yeah, so I like it because it's visual. It's quite pleasing. I think it mirrors maybe the popular tokens of the childlike nature or the food, or kind of, it's quite nice and playful. I think is matching Uniswap or 1-inch colors, and yeah, I think it can be easily digested by a wider audience this way. But yeah, I mean, let's why don't we go on the Fantom, the Fantom side, the best side. Here we have this is the homepage, of course, and with BubbleMaps you can view any project or token you like. NFT collection, project token, it's all there. So for an example, let's check out our good pals over at PaintSwap and see what's going on, if that's all good. So just a brief overview of what a bubble map is. Of course, we're looking at the top 150 holders, soon to be increased. So don't worry, we don't just judge the top 150. It just seems to be where the most supply is. So we show the top 150 holders as 150 bubbles. And each bubble, of course, is a wallet. And then if there's been a transfer of Fantom, then they'll be linked together. And it just tells us such a unique perspective, unique story of what's going on, because you don't want like mass wallets connected. You don't want loads of that supply concentrated amongst a lot of holders. Now, an unsavory example of that would be a wallet splitting, where one owner holds multiple amounts of the supply through a series of connected wallets. Now, a cluster like that would be like, if you can imagine, it would be like loads of these wallets here, randomly, all signified, all put together. And that's an obvious sign of wallet splitting there. But that's just one use case to explore with bubble maps. I mean, we can see so much. I mean, it's like, imagine a blockchain explorer, but visually in front of you. That's what it is. So like here, like these are bound to be potential team wallets here, which PaintSwap have been completely transparent and absolutely, we had an AMA with them not so long ago, and they went over it in great detail, super supportive and very, very, very cool to see. So you can just keep track of all the Fantom transfers, and like a cluster like this is so cool because it has a synonymous shape, and it's synonymous because it is it can be a private sale, it can be a pre-sale, yeah. And so it's like really awesome to see like clusters that like kind of signify, you know, what it is we're looking at here. And yeah, we can check out the different modes of a bubble map as well. So USDC, we can see the transfers of that. And my personal favorite use case for this is when a project has paid for a centralized exchange listing but hasn't announced it yet, because then you can see large amounts of money from the deployer wallet or wherever going to another holder, which would be the centralized exchange, and you can then see before it's launched, you know, if they're going to be on Binance or something. Is quite cool, I mean, to track this kind of thing. So it kind of makes the project owners be a bit smarter in that sense, but still it can pop that up. So you've got USDC, and then you've got the native token mode as well, how the supply has been distributed. Has there been any giveaways, marketing wallets? Like I said before, private sales, pre-sales, all of that good stuff. And of course, like if PaintSwap fundraised, if there's an ICO, you could be able to see the VCs. You know, are the VCs still holding? Have they sold early? And if you go onto the brush mode, you could see it in greater detail, because you can showcase the locked contracted wallets such as PaintSwap, the liquidity here. Sorry, I'm used to PancakeSwap when we said that, but this is a PaintSwap, so you can see who's interacted with this contract, and then you've got the ones below it as well. If you highlight all the contracts, you're then left with the airdropped holders, the holders who have been given their tokens. Of course, there might have been an OTC trade, and then you can track that with the blockchain explorer. And let's just say hypothetically these would be VCs, because they generally are given tokens on launch, and then you can see if they've sold early, all of that good stuff. And we'll be highlighting that in a future update with like historical bubble maps. But like, yeah, I mean, I love this, man. I love this. I mean, I know it's big coming from someone on the team or whatever, but like I honestly just, it's so colorful. Like, we noticed there was something missing with like blockchain explorers, and I think this fits it quite nicely. And it's good to celebrate transparency as well. Like in a market which is like quite oversaturated, and a lot of projects being built left, right, and center, a lot of NFT collections, I think to celebrate transparency as well. So like PaintSwap having an incredible bubble map with no unsavory connections that need further explanation or like seem really dodgy. They don't have any of that. So it's good to kind of like showcase that and celebrate it and be like, hey, take a look at PaintSwap. They've got an insane bubble map. They've got an insane distribution of tokens across, and it's all looking really good. So, you know, it's a place to verify, I think, a continuous audit, so to speak, because like standard audits only protect a token from its initial launch. So I guess with it, seeing if there's any discrepancies within the contract, that's it, done. But with BubbleMaps, it's a continuous progress, and it's like I can refresh this bubble map if I want to right now and get the most up-to-date transfers. I mean, this was done 4 days ago, but I can refresh it, and it does automatically refresh. But you know, if you want to refresh it, you can. So yes, sort of nice and easy to see all these things. Now there are a few more unsavory ones out there. I don't want to show too many, but like you'll be able to find quite a few. But like with the Fantom side, and I'm not just saying this, it's been the hardest blockchain to find unsavory projects on. I'm not just saying that. We generally do. So I'll encourage you to do it. I mean, if you wanted to check out the listed token section for Fantom, all of them are pretty credible and pretty upstanding. It's like it has a nice, healthy ecosystem happening there, which has been super cool to see coming from the other blockchains, which some might have some unsavory connections. It's a breath of fresh air to see it on this one. But yeah, I mean, it's quite a lot to digest at first, maybe potentially. So like, if you guys had any questions regarding it, I'm more than happy to answer them.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Don, you know, watching you go through it, and obviously I've played around with it a bit myself.
Yeah.
You know, I just put it in the same category as, I guess you could call it like research enablement, similarly to DeFi Llama, who we just did another episode with. That was actually our last episode, or 2 episodes ago. And really what this is it's, like you said, all this data is publicly available on the blockchain, but then making it readable in a way that's cohesive and makes sense for somebody who doesn't spend, you know, every moment of every day researching this sort of stuff is really important. And it gives tools to level the playing ground so that people can really audit for themselves firsthand what it is that they're getting involved in, or whatever it might be that they're considering. But of course, I also wanted to say, so you just showed, you know, the PaintSwap token.
Yeah.
This would be equally to things like NFT collections as well.
Yes. Yes.
Cool.
So yeah, it's going to be exactly the same for NFT collections, and it works even better for NFT collections because there's less hearsay. It's like more solid proof. Now, there is one I normally show people, but I don't know if I should jump into it. I don't want to name any names here, but when it comes to NFT collections, if there's been transfers of that native blockchain token, so let's say there's native transfers of Fantom within that NFT collection, it's not a token. It is a token, but it's not. They're NFT holders. Like, it operates differently. So they're holding NFTs. There isn't a reason really why they should be sending each other Fantom. But what we're finding with NFT collections is when they are sending each other Fantom, it's more solid proof what it is. And generally, yes, it's wash trading, where the owners are trying to falsely manipulate the volume of the NFT collection by sending each other Fantom to then buy those NFTs, causing fake volume, like I said, fake hype, making you buy in. And yeah, it's super obvious when you see it. So, you know, if you're out in the wild and you're on the PaintSwap, you're on any popular service, you gotta be looking at the bubble map of it, and it's really it is real bad. There's been a few investigations by popular YouTubers like CoffeeZilla and things like that, who have maybe looked upon this knowledge and kind of made them jump into it even more. And what you'll find is, as well, a lot of the same creators operate in the same circles, and you might see the same names popping up here and there with it. So it's a full-time job for people. So stay ahead of the game by searching it with BubbleMaps.
Yeah, that's cool. You're saying that essentially researchers are using this to uncover where there's unsavory trends. And you said, who was it? CoffeeZilla? Is that who you said was doing it?
Yeah,
Nice.
CoffeeZilla. Yeah, he's amazing.
That's something I'll definitely give that a look. But Chronic, from your perspective, you know, you came in before BubbleMaps was around, or if it was around, you know, it was probably more in stealth. You know, how do you see this sort of changing the game for those in the NFT crowd and the NFT ecosystem?
Well, I think that, you know, Don said it very well. You know, if you have a healthy community, if you have an organically growing community, let me put it that way, the trends that you should expect to see are not 100% fully consistent volume. That's suspicious. And a changing owner count, right, on an NFT collection. You can see those things on the PaintSwap stats page. You can just line up a chart. It's fully adaptable, whatever. What you can't see based upon that is the type of exchange like Don's talking about, where someone's sending that native token back and forth between those wallets. You can be crafty and you can manipulate volume under the radar, right? And maintain those levels of, you can make it appear where like, okay, yeah, there were 15 sales today, 7 new wallets were added. That seems right. Yesterday there were 7 sales with 4 new unique wallets added. That seems right. But if we're going in then to the BubbleMaps tab on that collections page and we see, oh, well, there's just these 4 circles that are sending each other a bunch of FTM over and over again, we've got a problem, right? But that sort of transparency is everything. That's the reason that we are in Web3 and decentralized finance, right? Is so that everyone can access all information at all times publicly, right? And I think to me, that's one of the most important things about blockchain technology is, I've spent a lot of time with our block explorers. I've done a lot of reading just through contracts, even reading contracts and seeing what modules exist in contracts, things like that. And I can do that with any project that I'm interested in, but the accessibility of it isn't there for, Joe from Tallahassee. He doesn't know how to do that, right? But products like BubbleMaps, they do a great job of making that possible. But that same spirit, I mean, that's why PaintSwap made our stats page the way that we made it, malleable and adaptable to what a user wants to learn about, right? We provide 2 axes of data, to where you can be looking at volume versus sales. You can be looking at unique holders versus whatever, however you want to look at it. Floor prices rising, blah, blah, blah. And it's there and it's in a visual. Now that came almost at the same time as the beginning of our interaction with BubbleMaps. As a matter of fact, we had been in discussion with BubbleMaps at the time that we launched that stats page. So we released one visual aid for people to hop on PaintSwap and look at stats, look at real-time information in a digestible way. And we followed that up with the BubbleMaps integration on PaintSwap, giving consumers a secondary tool to learn for themselves about the movements and dynamics of collections. And so the more that we can make things are transparent on the blockchain. They are by nature of the blockchain. But the more that we can give people access to that transparency, the better off we are. Because I don't want people having to go out and do these crypto Twitter campaigns to out bad actors. That's passe. We're done with this. We don't want it anymore, right? What we want is we want everyone to be able to see for themselves who they are doing business with or who they're investing in, I guess would be a better phrase there. But yeah. I think that is everything. That transparency is absolutely crucial.
It's going to help massively with mass adoption, I think, because the thing that's limiting people coming in the space is the confusion of it all, maybe how to understand, how to read the blockchain, what it's all about. So anything to bridge that gap, it's going to bring in more eyes onto this and create less and less bad publicity, because that's been the worst. The last year has been pretty bad. I think they said something about there's been 2 billion lost in DeFi or scammed within DeFi, and it's that's the headlines. Mm-hmm. People don't want to, oh, what's Bitcoin? What's that? I was like, it's a scam. It's a scam. You know, you give something to the media, they're going to run and jump with it. So we got to do everything on our side to make it a transparent, seamless process for as many people as possible. So that's going to help. That's going to help. And I think when we gear up to the next bull run, it's adding up to this. It's adding up to this kind of like open transparency, this honest side of things. Like we're quite early in this field of DeFi and things, like to a certain degree. I think, like especially last year, that run up was insane, and you know the rise of like BNB and things, and like loads and loads of people coming in, and then ultimately crashing, I suppose. But yeah, I think this next bull run is going to be huge, and it's going to. Yeah, security is the aim of the game, is what I'm trying to say. I'm rambling slightly, but yeah.
Well, to tie into what you, I'm sorry, Juan, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, to tie into what you're saying about, you know, the headlines and whatnot, I think that there's this understanding out there that on the blockchain, anyone can be anybody, right? Like everything's anonymous. You don't know who these people are. You do, right? Because you can look at their wallet. You might not know their name or where they live, right? But I can track funds from all the way from Binance Europe to SpookySwap to PancakeSwap, back across chains. I can track funds then to whatever Coinbase, you know. I know exactly who you are, whether I know your name or not. And
I feel scared.
Tools.
I feel scared. You're not even
Detective Chronic.
Right.
Yeah.
I know exactly who you are. I'm watching you, F865.
I was gonna say, so this is something that happened, I want to say a couple of months ago, but now that we were looking at BubbleMaps and we're looking at the brush token, and we were saying essentially this is what it would look like with NFTs as well. There was a statement by crypto Twitter Kobe, where he said something that people liked and disliked within the NFT community, which was art NFTs are just tokens with JPEGs attached. And I was curious, you know, what you guys' thoughts are on that, especially when we're thinking about generative collections. Like, is that in fact the case? And if so, is that a good thing or is it not? And there's no specific answer. It's just something that I think took a lot of people by surprise because of how untrue and true it is both at the same time. Well,
I mean, fundamentally, it's true. You know, I'm sorry, world, but fundamentally, that is the case. The question isn't, is it just a JPEG and a token ID? The question is, what does that token ID do, right? Because I can say to you right now, $100 bill, that's just a piece of paper with Benjamin Franklin's face on it, right? It is, but it can also buy stuff, right? So, I mean, yeah, that's true. It's just a gross oversimplification, you know? So I get it. Yeah. And it is true. There are definitely things out there that like again, every piece of art that I sell, I don't build utility into contracts. That's not a thing that I personally do. So my art that's out there, it's just a JPEG and a token ID, you know, sorry guys, you know, but
your artwork is, it's one-of-ones, right? Not generatives.
Correct. Yeah. I do all one-of-one. I don't do generative art.
Gotcha.
Not to speak ill of our generative friends or anything. It's just not something that I do. You know, that the generative trend is all about market sentiment, like 1 billion%. It is about market sentiment on a collection, community hype around a collection, and then any additional utility that's built onto that generative collection. So like we're coming to a point now where, and this is not a Phantom Opera thing. This is an every chain thing. This is happening all across your layer 2s, your layer 1s, whatever, where you're getting just massive generative collection, not massive collections, but a large number of collections put out in a very, very brief time. And people are buying in to speculate if they can flip for that 100% profit that day one. And that's all well and fine. There's nothing wrong with doing that. But there does come a plateau where what you are releasing, it's going to have to do something, you know, because people just, we are at the end of the day, we're like 2,500 active wallets on Fantom buying NFTs, you know, like on whatever network, you got a few thousand, you know, if you're on ETH, sure, you got a few thousand more, but it's a limited market. So, you know, you keep giving people Pepsi and one day they're going to be like, nah, I need a Coca-Cola. So it is what it is.
Chronic's a Coca-Cola guy, but
I am a Coca-Cola guy. I'm not going to lie to you. I am.
So what I was going to say about market sentiment and all these projects operating through low market sentiment right now, that we're at a bit of a pullback or bear market, unless you're a hyper optimist. I was going to ask you, Don. So Operating was essentially an analytics infrastructure company, right? The majority of the conversations we're having at the foundation right now are actually with infrastructure teams who are laying down essentially the groundwork or the rails for whatever will happen next for this next cycle, which is estimated to happen in 2048. No, I'm joking. Hopefully sooner than that. But so what I want to know is, what's it like as a founder and a builder launching in such turbulent market conditions, and what are some of the learnings and takeaways you've had? Because I imagine that when you started thinking about this, things were still euphoric, and then by the time it came around, it wasn't so much the case anymore. So I'm curious how you're going to navigate and manage that.
That's a good question. I mean, like we built it in a bull market, and then like I think it was like 7 months in, then it started to take a turn for the worst. So like, I mean, it's a troublesome time really, because it's the unexpected, and it's my first bear market, so I don't really know what to expect. And projects are dropping off. Your friends that have been in the space are nowhere to be seen anymore, and it's not as active as it once was, and it can be quite a daunting place. But like as a project, I think what really helps us is like we have such a core team of people that just believe in it no matter what, and I think that does help. And like the excitement we get and the endorsements we have, and like building is great because people, if you're doing, I guess like you can get recognized. There's plenty of things out there, or like programs, NFT dashboards, auditing sites, blockchains. If you're willing to put the work in to kind of like contact these external places and have your voice heard, then I think you're in a fighting chance within a bear market. And especially with the Fantom Foundation, I mean, like just reaching out to them and just being, hey, this is what we do, and then seeing the support from their side, and just like I think no matter the market conditions, it's been amazing to have just support and kind of like builders integrating with builders, and the collaborations and the sticking together, the community aspect of it all, that has helped us a lot. And the bull market is fun. It's full of adrenaline, and we all love it. But I think the bear market shows you, like who's going to be around. Like if you're still here and you're still build, like I don't know. Part of me's like, I want to build regardless. I want to keep going regardless. These market conditions don't faze me. I don't know. Like I think I just love what I'm doing. I love what we're doing, and like regardless of outside noise, it's like it doesn't matter. It doesn't pose a threat. You just get your blinkers on, and you just want to carry on with it. I mean, it's always good when more eyes are being implemented into crypto, and you get the generalized market cap going up. When it was above 2 trillion, that was so good to see. That was amazing to see. That's exciting because it's just a win-win-win for everyone. But I think just being in a bear market can be cool because it's not just about making money anymore. Like I'm not money driven. I'm more working, and I sound like a hippie a bit, but I'm more like making a good product and just enjoying what I'm doing every single day. Like I don't want to be like, oh, I'm going to buy this Porsche, this Ferrari. That doesn't interest me. I think, and then that's what the bear market is kind of showing me. It's like who's genuinely here to kind of thrive and be around and wants the best out of crypto, and that's the people I want to associate with. So like, that's a good part of the bear market, I think. A bull market, bear market, yeah. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I have the utmost respect for the builders that keep going during times like these, especially with all the negative sentiment and the negative sentiment that can be hurled directly at them, right? But equally so, I'm also always really impressed by the artists who stick around and continue to produce art and continue to feed this sort of creative energy to their communities, because for them it's sort of the exact same situation. And so that actually leads me to another point where I want to get your opinion on it, Chronic, and yours if you have one, Don. There's been a lot of conversation around royalty fees, right? How royalty fees should be implemented, the pros and cons of them. And I think I've read every single kind of opinion you can imagine across the spectrum from both artists and purchasers and collectors. So curious, what's the conversation that you're hearing, particularly within Fantom, and then you yourself, how do you feel about it?
I mean, here's my deal with royalties. First of all, there's a contract standard for it. It's built into Solidity, right? If I have that contract standard in my contract, deal with it. If you trade it, then a respectful marketplace will observe that and they will send the royalty, right? And that's the end of the conversation there. So there will, regardless of where the royalty conversation goes, there should never be a time where a platform such as PaintSwap or PaintSwap's the only one I can think of on Fantom that supports the EIP, but there should never be a time where you look at it and ignore it, right? That's not how it works. Now, as far as the ethics of royalties, I mean, it makes perfect sense to me for an artist to collect royalties on art that they have sold. I don't see why not. People do it in real life all the time. You trade my likeness or you trade on my name. If something has gained value as a result of the value that I have brought to it, then why shouldn't that person see extra profit? And additionally, if you don't want to pay royalties, don't buy it. It's we're talking about a cost of doing business thing here. It's your decision as a purchaser. You can see it, especially on PaintSwap, we show it like it's a whole thing right at the bottom in the info box, royalties, this %. If you don't want to pay that, don't buy the NFT. And I don't think anyone will hate on you for it. Just don't buy it. But as far as royalties, as far as artists, royalties are a game changer. For an artist, artists do not make residual income off of their work in the real world. And that's a crying shame, right? Because you've got an artist who they may do $1,000 in sales in a week at a show, right? And it may be the best week of their life. And then they're not eating for the next month. They can't make rent for the next month, right? But the royalties make that possible for artists to actually survive and thrive off of the work that they have done. And I think that's real important. I think that's real important. That's some special thing that only Web3 can provide right now, is it's a support system and a guarantee for artists to go out there, use their creativity, be the best version of themselves that they can be, and be rewarded for that for once in history. So, artists have had enough hard luck. Just pay them the royalty.
You're getting me hyped,
That's
man.
Chronic's word on that.
Yeah.
We're going out in the streets, Don and I, after this.
Yes. We'll be on unicorns, NFT unicorns. That's getting me hyped, man. That's awesome to hear. I think artists need to be celebrated and endorsed because they're bringing creativity to the world in a world that sometimes seems like dull, bleak, grey, monotonous. I think art is super important and the creativity needs to be there. And it's nothing new. This whole royalty thing, there's nothing new to it. Because, music licensing and things like that, and like businesses paying for that fee, it's never been really in the retailer's perspective. They pay the fee to buy the album and things like that. But I think with this whole NFT world, that's being transferred to the kind of consumer, if you will, this fee. I mean, some people might take it too far, but a sensible fee. What is a sensible fee anyway? What is a sensible fee? 10%, 20%? That's another topic. But I don't know what it's like on PaintSwap, but that'd be another discussion. But like, yeah, I think having that there in the first, it's a safety blanket. It's like celebrating art. It's like a win-win. I'm all for it. I think it's a great thing to do. So that's my side of it.
One thing real quick, I'll actually slap this on the edge because I should have mentioned this a second ago. The one thing that PaintSwap does, we cap royalties at 7.5%, have done since the beginning of PaintSwap, right? So if you have a royalty standard built into your contract that says, I want 50% royalties, we're not going to give you that. We'll respect that your contract dictates royalties, and we'll send that 7.5% that our platform allows to that wallet. But, you know,
So
that's at least what we think is a fair percentage at the maximum end for now, anyway.
So just for any listeners who wanted to deploy an NFT collection on PaintSwap, they have the so it's capped at 7%.
7.5%.
Don't forget the royalties. So 7.5. So how would it work then? So like you yourselves as an entity would gather all of these trading fee, if you will, and then send it to them, or is it written in the contract and it will automatically send them any kind of any reward or fee commission that they generate?
Yeah, it depends on how the collection is set up, but
Sure.
I forget the term that it has when you look it up on Fantom Scam, but basically our distribution smart contract in one transaction receives the funds from a sale and splits them three ways. There's PaintSwap DAO fees, there's royalty fees, and then there's seller amount. And you can see that lined out line by line in the internal or the logs of the transaction. You can go into the logs of a transaction on Fantom Scan and you can see exactly how those funds were distributed. So if you take a 2.5% PaintSwap fee, a maximum 7.5% royalty fee for an artist, that's 10%, right? So the most that you can lose out of your sale amount as the seller, you are accountable for those. You don't get that bit from the buyer. You can lose out on 10% maximum, and maybe somebody gets to pay rent this month for it.
Well, that's fascinating. I didn't know that's actually how it works. But there's two questions that came to mind, one for each of you, as we're nearing the end of our conversation here, that I think are fun questions. So first for Don, I'd like to hear, I'm sure you spent a lot of time looking at your own interface. Like, what's the most mind-boggling or bizarre thing you've seen in terms of bubble formations, across the board?
Oh, okay. Yeah, there's one that sticks out, actually. There's one that sticks out, and I love this one because it documented documented a failed NFT launch. And it was really cool to see because this was only recently as well, because it just shows you, I guess, how we have to keep learning, and there's never like a complete set of clusters where you're like, this is this and this and this. You'll keep finding new ones and you're like, what does this mean? And it really stumps you. And yeah, this cluster was in this NFT collection on a different chain, and we saw it and we're like, hang on, this is weird, because it was like a cluster like we saw with PaintSwap just now, where one wallet is connected to a string of ones on the outside, like a symmetrical one. And what we've always said is, like, a symmetrical cluster is generally a good thing. But what we were seeing is the one in the middle was actually sending tokens outward to all of these connected wallets, which really didn't make sense to us, because why would a wallet do that? And it was super bizarre. And we traced it back, and it actually was the wallet in the middle deployed a smart contract to connect 300 wallets to the outside to then buy half the supply of an NFT collection on launch, to bot it essentially, and they succeeded. But in doing so, they're all connected and highlighted on BubbleMaps, so we could very quickly understand that, hang on a minute, we can see here that this NFT collection is heavily botted. And with what we saw, the NFT collection the NFT collection actually had to change the metadata of the NFTs themselves because of the botting and all of that. They didn't want them to make any money on the back market there. So yeah, that was really cool to see, to understand, to unravel, because it's like an investigation as you go along, and it can be quite fun and rewarding. But that was a cool one recently. I'd love to share it with you guys sometime. But that was a cool one.
I think what would be cool to see is as people get more adept at using BubbleMaps, just kind of having them showcase some of the interesting findings that they discover, as well as almost like the interpretation of what different patterns mean, right? So like, oh, if you see this pattern, it could mean one of three things, and depending on the variables to it, this is how you can interpret it. Because at the end of the day, it almost becomes like a very, very, very high level language, a very high level programming language, where it's almost like Scratch, that programming language for kids where you like drag and drop boxes. But at the end of the day, you still have to know how to do that. So it already encapsulates so much abstraction from how technical things are, and I'm excited to see how much more it can abstract all of those technicalities in the future as you progress towards almost like these, I guess, by default suggestions and recommendations as to what patterns might mean. So yeah, just pumped to see that for you guys.
Thank you.
Chronic. So what I want to ask you is you've been around the block for a bit, as you said, and you've been in the Fantom NFT ecosystem in several different capacities, as individual contributor and artist, as a community member, as now business development at PaintSwap. How would you describe the rise or the inception of the Fantom NFT ecosystem? Because it's one of the most interesting and if I can say almost bizarre ones that I've seen, where it's so grassroots, bottoms up driven, very much word of mouth and peer to peer. And it's hard for, I think, anybody to put their finger on exactly how it is that it came to be, or what the conditions were that drove that to happen on Fantom. But I'm curious if you could try to put it in your own words.
Yeah, it's really been a wild journey, because the Fantom NFT Evolution has been heavily tied with the Fantom ERC20 evolution, right? ERC20s came onto Fantom, of course, at the very beginning, right? So they've been around for a little bit. And these token community, for the layman, that's just a token, right? ERC20. These token communities were some of the first to start releasing just random NFTs. But also, at the very early onset of art NFTs on Fantom, there were a bunch of collections released on basically one gigantic contract through a front end of a older marketplace. It's not really doing anything anymore. And it was the intermingling of the actual people of Fantom on both Twitter and in Discord that made Fantom NFTs occur. It was the things like live auction houses, like Tombhead's Auction House, bringing people together literally to speak to one another, right? And getting out of the anonymity of your Telegram, right? These things to where people have a tactile and traceable history through their time in the Fantom art community, artists knowing artists and working with artists. There's just so much to it. But I think at the end of the day, what it boils down to is that NFTs on Fantom were born from artists. They were born from artists to share their art with one another and with a community. And then came utilitarian projects following that. And I think that that's been a really interesting dichotomy to see evolve, and we're still such a young chain. Those of us who have been here for most of the life of Fantom Opera, we've only seen just the very beginnings of what's possible. And I think it's really amazing that the foundational people who are doing that are creative people, right? I think that's amazing. Creative people tied with like the same 12 developers that have made everything on Fantom Opera, and then a bunch of other artists. It's just really amazing to see. I'm kind of just rambling now, but Fantom's really cool. Artists are cool. NFTs are cool.
I agree. Fantom have just been so approachable, and yeah, there's still so much to conquer, I think, and still so much to go. But like the core fundamentals of the team, of the way they approach projects, the way they endorse projects, I think is just going to set them the bar above everyone else. So it's an absolute honor to be a part of Fantom's journey just by a little bit.
Yeah, I'll also say, Don, for anybody looking to work with anybody else, having BubbleMaps makes it a lot easier to understand what you're dealing with. So yeah, it's such an important tool. Honestly, the first time I saw it, I think I replied to you in our chat and I said this is like the Tableau business intelligence visualization for NFTs and for ERC20 crypto tokens on Fantom. So yeah, really pumped to like I said, really pumped to see what you guys are going to go to next. Anything that either of you can share about either PaintSwap or BubbleMaps that's up and coming, exciting, that people can look forward to, ideally by the time this podcast is published, or maybe that's too short a time frame. Let's just say in the next few months.
Okay, I'll go real quick because I'm eager to hear what you have to say about PaintSwap. So historical BubbleMaps is coming soon, so you can be able to see what happened at the very inception of a project and have a little bar at the bottom to like delve even deeper. So that's going to be coming really soon, along with some other user interface changes and things, and more projects and tokens and NFT collections. But the real star of the show, I want to know more about PaintSwap, really. So please kind of go for it, my friend.
Well, you know, there's a lot of stuff that we're currently working on. We never stop. They never stop. The developers, like, I wish they would, so that I could at some time actually tease a product. I'm working up some mediums on some of our more our newer tools, like a P2P swap medium that I'm working on right now. On top of that, just make sure that you're keeping your eyes on financial NFTs, because there's a lot that is going down right now with financial NFTs in our ecosystem. And that might mean something very different by the time this comes out. I don't know. I'm not sure. Might not. So I'll leave you with that cryptic.
I like that. That's good. That's good. So for anybody who wants to learn more about either of you guys' work, either personally or in terms of the teams you're representing, where can they learn more? What's the best place to get in touch or get involved?
I'll just say any form of our social media. So like our Twitter page, just type in @BubbleMaps, and the same with Telegram, the same with Discord, just all over the shop. We're very active. Feel free to message us whenever you like. If your project wants to be listed, reach out. And yeah, it'll be an absolute honor to work with you, talk with you, whatever you need, we're here.
And PaintSwap, you can find us on Twitter @paint_swap. And from there, that links to our Discord. I'm Chronic, and you can find me @ChronicDispo or Chronic Dispositions on Discord. And we answer DMs. We help people in our Discord all the time. So come on by.
Awesome. Well, hey guys, it's been a great session. Learned a ton. Hope our listeners enjoy it, and we'll have to do it again soon, unless you guys start a business between now and then together. But yeah, great chatting with you both.
Nice one. Thanks for having us. Cheers.
All right.
Thank you.
See y'all.